Hello and welcome to today's episode on Advice CEO Podcast, where we'll be discussing the top 10 most important lessons from the book Hyper-Focus by Chris Bailey. This book is a self-help guide that aims to teach readers how to increase productivity and concentration in a world filled with distractions. So, let's get started. Lesson 1. In order to achieve hyper-focus, we need to eliminate both internal and external distractions that can disrupt our attention. Distractions can come from many sources, both external and internal. External distractions might include things like social media, email notifications, or noisy environments, while internal distractions might include worries, anxieties, or negative thoughts. To eliminate these distractions, we need to be mindful of our environment and our own mental states, and take steps to remove anything that might interfere with our focus. One example of how external distractions can affect our attention comes from the world of sports. In basketball, players often use various techniques to distract their opponents, such as fake moves, fake passes, or even trash talking. The goal is to disrupt their opponent's focus and make them lose their concentration. In the same way, external distractions in our own lives can disrupt our focus and prevent us from achieving our goals. Think of your focus as a spotlight. The brighter and more focused the spotlight, the easier it is to see what's important and ignore everything else. But if the spotlight is dim or scattered, it's much harder to see clearly and stay on track. Lesson 2. Time management is essential for improving our focus and productivity, and we should use tools such as calendars and to-do lists to help us stay organized. Time management is a critical skill for achieving hyper-focus. Without a clear sense of how we're spending our time, it's easy to get distracted and lose track of our goals. One effective tool for time management is a calendar or planner, which can help us schedule our tasks and ensure that we're making progress on our most important goals. One example of the power of time management comes from the world of music. When musicians are learning a new piece of music, they often break it down into smaller sections and practice each section individually, rather than trying to play the whole piece at once. By breaking the task down into manageable chunks and scheduling time to practice each section, they can make steady progress and eventually master the entire piece. Think of your time as a limited resource, like a pie. You only have so much pie to go around, so you need to be mindful of how you're slicing it up and make sure you're using each slice effectively. Lesson 3. Prioritizing tasks based on their importance and urgency can help us make better use of our time and avoid wasting energy on low-value activities. Prioritization is another key aspect of time management. By identifying the tasks that are most important and urgent, we can ensure that we're focusing our energy on the things that will have the biggest impact. This can help us avoid getting bogged down in low-value tasks that don't contribute much to our goals. One example of the importance of prioritization comes from the world of business. When companies are deciding which projects to pursue, they often use a prioritization framework that takes into account factors like profitability, strategic fit, and customer demand. By focusing their resources on the projects that are most likely to generate the greatest return, they can ensure that they're making the most of their time and energy. Think of your to-do list as a stack of papers. Each paper represents a task, and some papers are more important or urgent than others. By organizing your papers into different stacks based on their priority, you can ensure that you're tackling the most important tasks first and making steady progress towards your goals. Lesson 4. Our attention spans are limited, and we need to take regular breaks to recharge our batteries and avoid burnout. While it's important to stay focused and productive, it's also essential to recognize that our attention spans have limits. We can't work at peak efficiency for hours on end without taking breaks to recharge our batteries. By taking regular breaks, we can give our minds a chance to rest and recover, which can actually improve our overall productivity in the long run. One example of the importance of taking breaks comes from the world of professional sports. In soccer, players are only allowed to play for 45 minutes at a time before taking a 15-minute break. This rule ensures that players are able to maintain their focus and energy throughout the game, rather than burning out early and becoming less effective. Think of your attention span as a battery. Just like a battery needs to be recharged regularly, your attention span needs to be replenished through breaks and rest. By taking care of your battery, you can ensure that it stays charged and ready for action. Lesson 5. We should strive for deep work, which is focused, uninterrupted work that allows us to dive deep into a task and make real progress. Deep work is a term coined by author and Professor Cal Newport to describe the state of being fully immersed in a task and working at maximum productivity. When we're in a state of deep work, we're able to tune out distractions and focus all our energy on the task at hand. This allows us to make real progress and achieve our goals more quickly. One example of the power of deep work comes from the world of writing. When author J.K. Rowling was working on the Harry Potter series, she would often check into a hotel room for several days at a time, with no distractions or interruptions. This allowed her to dive deep into her writing and make steady progress on her books. Think of deep work as diving to the bottom of a pool. It can be challenging and requires focus and effort, but once you reach the bottom, you can achieve a sense of clarity and accomplishment that's hard to replicate in other contexts. Lesson 6. Multitasking is a myth, and trying to do too many things at once can actually hurt our productivity and focus. Many of us pride ourselves on our ability to multitask, but the truth is that multitasking is a myth. Our brains simply aren't wired to focus on multiple tasks at once, and trying to do so can actually hurt our productivity and focus. Instead, we should focus on one task at a time and give it our full attention. One example of the dangers of multitasking comes from the world of medicine. When doctors try to juggle too many patients at once, they can make mistakes or miss important details that could have serious consequences for their patients. Think of multitasking as juggling. While it might be impressive to watch someone juggle multiple objects at once, it's also clear that they can't give each object their full attention. In the same way, trying to multitask with our work can lead to a lack of focus and diminished productivity. Lesson 7. Planning and preparation are key to achieving hyperfocus, and we should take time to think through our goals and strategies before diving into a task. In order to achieve hyperfocus, it's important to have a clear plan and strategy in place before diving into a task. This means taking time to think through our goals and priorities, as well as any potential roadblocks or challenges that we might encounter along the way. One example of the power of planning comes from the world of filmmaking. Before shooting a scene, directors often spend hours or even days planning out every detail, from camera angles to lighting to dialogue. This level of preparation allows them to execute their vision with precision and efficiency. Think of planning as a map that helps guide you to your destination. Just as you wouldn't set out on a road trip without a map, you shouldn't start a task without a clear plan in place. By taking the time to prepare and map out your route, you can navigate your way to success more effectively. Lesson 8. We should strive for balance in our work and personal lives, and make time for hobbies and other non-work activities that help us recharge and stay motivated. Achieving hyperfocus and maximizing our productivity is important, but it's also essential to maintain a healthy work-life balance. By making time for hobbies and other non-work activities, we can recharge our batteries and stay motivated, which can actually improve our overall productivity in the long run. One example of the importance of work-life balance comes from the world of entrepreneurship. Many successful entrepreneurs emphasize the importance of taking time off and pursuing hobbies or other interests as a way to recharge their batteries and stay creative and motivated. Think of work-life balance as a seesaw. Just as a seesaw needs to be balanced in order to function properly, we need to balance our work and personal lives in order to maintain our well-being and productivity. By making time for hobbies and other non-work activities, we can ensure that both sides of our seesaw are functioning optimally. Lesson 9. Mindfulness and meditation can help us achieve a state of hyperfocus and should be a regular part of our daily routine. Mindfulness and meditation are powerful tools that can help us achieve a state of hyperfocus and maximize our productivity. By learning to quiet our minds and focus on the present moment, we can improve our concentration and ability to focus on the task at hand. One example of the power of mindfulness comes from the world of sports. Athletes who practice mindfulness techniques have been shown to perform better under pressure and recover more quickly from injuries. Think of mindfulness as a flashlight that illuminates the present moment. Just as a flashlight can help us see more clearly in the dark, mindfulness can help us stay focused and present in the midst of distractions and challenges. Lesson 10. We should strive for progress, not perfection, and be willing to accept failure as a natural part of the learning process. Finally, it's important to remember that achieving hyperfocus and maximizing our productivity is a journey, not a destination. We should strive for progress, not perfection, and be willing to accept failure as a natural part of the learning process. One example of the importance of embracing failure comes from the world of business. Many successful entrepreneurs have experienced multiple failures before achieving success, and credit those failures with teaching them important lessons and helping them grow. Think of progress as a staircase. Each step represents a small victory or accomplishment, and even if we stumble or fall along the way, we can always pick ourselves back up and keep climbing towards our goals. Thank you for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please consider sharing it with others who may benefit from these lessons. And as always, we welcome your feedback and suggestions for future topics. Until next time, the top 10 lessons from Chris Bailey's book Hyperfocus. We hope these lessons will inspire you to achieve a state of hyperfocus and maximize your productivity in all areas of your life.